Hello Taurus, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for January 2023. I'm going to give you some broad strands to look out for, particularly focusing on your ruler Venus, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail all the key influences and dates particularly relevant to your sign. Now, as you come into this new year, Venus is tightly aligned to Pluto. Pluto's the planet of transformation, but when Venus and Pluto are connected in such an intense way, Pluto's power can be used in sometimes a bit more of a negative way in terms of the charm and allure of Venus. So when it comes to expanding your situation, and I think you're going to feel pretty determined to do that, you have a reputation of being someone who really likes a degree of continuity. But Uranus has been challenging that hugely in recent years, but then so has Pluto since 2008. So to have your ruler so aligned to Pluto as this year begins is really significant. And I think what it's saying to you is for the whole of this year, the truth of your relationships has to echo deep within your being in a way that feels right. So if you've been in a tie that's been bumping along the bottom, or it's a bit of a stalemate, or it's not really as gratifying as you would like, I think Pluto's pushing you to think about really embracing the reality that perhaps is tough to consider, but may need considering. Now, if you're single, it can also mean that some real excitement is going to enter your situation around your romantic sphere in 2023. But Venus is also forging a really lovely link in the first week of this month with Jupiter, the planet of good fortune, but that's locked away in your 12th house. So what I'd say to you is just be aware of the things that are not so obvious. So the conversations you have, the soundings, the research you're doing, because they could turn out to be really quite fortunate for you. Now, Venus then moves on the 3rd into the part of your situation that's very much to do with your worldly interactions. But it's also going to be moving again on the 27th into the sign of Pisces, where it's exalted. And that's going to give you some rich social opportunities as the month comes to a close. But really, once the sun makes its way into the sign of Aquarius on the 20th, I think there's a lot of this month that's going to see you thinking about your role in life, work, professional situations, the amount of responsibilities you have, and goal setting. But Venus is challenged by Saturn on the new moon, which occurs on the 21st. So I need to tell you about that. And also Venus is in a square with Uranus across the 12th to the 16th, which can also create some potential restlessness, but also some disruption around relationships. So lots to share. But if you would like to understand what this year will hold for you personally, and ascending above this zodiac broadcast, if you give me 3 pieces of birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you your forecast for the year. If you order it at the end of year 2022, you get the rest of that year free. But also my special package of 30% off. You will get your life roadmap, your character analysis, which can help you to understand some repetitive patterns that may have come up in your situation, but it can also help you to seize opportunities with greater conviction. I will also, in my package, give you your 12 zodiac sign written forecast for each of the signs, which gives you something to go back to as we go through this new year. Please see the link below for more. Also, if you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. Please click and tap on the bell notification symbol if you'd like to become a subscriber. For all ongoing subscribers, thank you so much for your support. So Taurus, your January 2023 forecast begins with the Sun, Mercury in retrograde, Venus, your ruler, and Pluto all lined up in your sister Earth sign of Capricorn. Capricorn's very much about the prevailing trends, the established order. It's very much to do with traditions. But for you, it's the ninth house, which can be to do with higher knowledge. It can be to do with travel, international affairs, even the rule of law. But also it can be to do with adventurism and being independent. But there is a lesson from this particular solar return, because Mercury can govern travel, distribution, documentation, technology. It's possible that there will be some snags that do unfold for you over the whole of year 2023 because of this solar return. And I think the combination of Venus and Pluto is just saying to you that you're going to have to weigh up shrewdly what the truth of certain situations are and use a lot of your earthy instincts to guide you. But you can do that. But on the 3rd of this month, Venus, your ruler, moves to the top of your chart. Your ability to get on well with people is really highlighted by this transition. Of course, we can all have skills, we can all have knowledge and experience, but if we go for an interview or we do a presentation, it's often the personal chemistry which will be the deciding part of what decision is made. So your ability to cultivate important contacts and influences is definitely heightened from the 3rd of this month. But on the 6th, we have a full moon. And this full moon is in house 3 for you, very much about your everyday life, your immediate environment, your quick moving conversations. It's very much akin to interacting with neighbours, your community, potentially your siblings. But in opposition, we have Mercury in that retrograde very close to the Sun. So this particular full moon is asking you to choose your words with care over the following 2 weeks and not jump to any hasty conclusions. The sign of Cancer can be quite defensive, to be honest, and the moon being there is obviously in its home zone, it's domiciled, and the moon is exalted in your sign, so you have a great appreciation of the moon, the need for comfort and security and stability at the core of your world. But I think something may be getting discussed and things can be a bit frenetic, and because Uranus is actually angling to both the position of the moon and the sun, and the sun itself forges a very lively link to Uranus in your sign from the 3rd to the 9th. This is pushing you to really consider some changes, even if you're someone who's had a particular way of doing things that's really worked well in a consistent way, and you might be loath to actually change things up. But that Venus-Pluto conjunction and this particular full moon are really pushing you to be as open-minded as possible. But on the 12th, a key change. Mars has been in retrograde since the end of October. If your financial situation has slowed down, many people's have, with the prevailing headwinds that we're all facing globally, or whichever country you live in, there are lots of increased costs. And I feel for you, because Mars has been in retrograde and it was squaring up with Neptune all through October and November, the first 3 or 4 days of December. It's going to be squaring up with Neptune again in March. But Mars going direct at this point of the month is good, because I think some of the frustration you felt around finance, or if you felt a bit helpless, or your longer term plans seem to be blighted by the new reality we're all faced with, I just feel that you can get much more on the front foot after near to 11 weeks of feeling quite drained or sluggish in this regard. Now on the 18th, Mercury goes direct. We all know that Mercury retrograde can cause snags around travel, technology, ticketing, luggage, distribution and so forth. But Mercury retrograde in your 9th house, I think, has been pushing you in some ways to rethink some of your philosophies and belief systems. So Mercury going direct is obviously a good news story, but just be aware that all the Mercury retrogrades this year are going to be in Earth signs. So for you, this one's house 9. the one that comes next after this will be in your sign, then it's going to be in Virgo, then back in Capricorn again. So it's going to be really important to understand that your initiation, your more desires to get things off the ground and moving this year is going to be key to dealing with Mercury's interruptions. Now on the 20th, the Sun makes its way into the sign of Aquarius, joining up with Venus and of course Saturn. Now Saturn has been quite a punishing influence over the last couple of years when it comes to your work, responsibilities and goals. If you've had an elderly parent to look out for, or perhaps at work you've had to do more work for perhaps less recognition because there's been less amount of people to do that work. This is all very possible. Or it's also given you an opportunity to actually establish yourself in a much more rooted way when it comes to the role you have. So Saturn doesn't always work in a negative way, but the Sun moving into the sign of Aquarius begins a 4-week period where your role in life, your ambitions and goals are really coming to the centre of your thinking. But on the 21st, the new moon does see the Sun and the Moon very close to Pluto, which is right at the end of Capricorn at 28 degrees 20. Of course, it's going to be moving into Aquarius briefly on the 23rd of March. But this particular new moon does forge a sextile, which is a very enabling link in astrology, to Jupiter. So Jupiter in your 12th house of reflection, the more spiritual domain, is linking brilliantly to this new moon, which has the added power of Pluto. So I would say, when it comes to your hopes in terms of gaining greater recognition or visibility or acknowledgement for your talents, don't underestimate the things that you can do quietly behind the scenes. It's not all about flagging yourself up more visibly, although that would be a good thing to do at this juncture. But Jupiter's saying your understanding of the psychological dimension of relationships or the politics of where you work is going to be very important for you seizing opportunities in the following month. Now Uranus, which has of course been with you since March 2019 full time, you had 5 months in 2018, that also ends a retrograde. So on the 23rd it goes forwards after having retraced its steps since August the 24th last year. So if you have been trying to balance the demands of Saturn to fit in with how the prevailing world has been and the expectations of others, the 10th house, very Capricornian, even though Saturn rules Aquarius, is in Aquarius. But of course Uranus and Saturn were aggravating each other for near to 2 years, but that came to a close at the start of December. So I think Uranus going direct is going to be quite liberating. And because of Venus being in that conjunction with Pluto in your 9th house of personal freedom and independence, I think the two events are linked because it's giving you a chance to really show people what a one-off you are. So don't underestimate that maybe if there are some pre-existing professional involvements that you've had that have served you well but have caused a certain amount of stress over the last couple of years, Uranus going direct and the fact that Venus, your ruler, and Saturn are in a conjunction on that particular new moon does point towards perhaps the potential to rethink your professional situation. And Uranus is very much to do with authenticity and truth. So you may have stayed in a role because of COVID, because it paid the bills, but if it wasn't really feeding your soul, I think Uranus going direct and Saturn being right on Venus could tease out something that isn't working for you and encourage you with the help of Pluto to be braver about going for something that would really inspire you. That's also true that in week 4 the Sun is forging a tremendous link with Jupiter. This is one of the most fortunate of all planetary aspects, Sun sextile Jupiter. But again, Jupiter still tucked up hidden away. It's not going to arrive in your sign until the 16th of May. So its influence in this first phase of the year is effectively going to be much more psychological and much more to do with your philosophies. But that doesn't mean to say that what you learn by doing deep market research or listening to people or doing some studying, especially professional study, couldn't be advantageous to you, because I think it could be really advantageous. Also, it's true that Venus, your ruler, moves into Pisces on the 27th, where it loves to be. It's exalted here, but it's forging a semi-sextile to Jupiter in your 12th house. Someone that you're fond of could really put a good word in for you just in this last phase of the month. It may be a case of not what as much as who you know, and it could be really significant. But it is true that Venus is challenged from the 12th to the 16th, right at the heart of this month. So maybe the inference there is, with Uranus being in your own sign and Venus at this point being in the 10th house, is daring to be a little bit different. You know, the energy in Capricorn at the start of this month is very much to do with the status quo, the established order. But because for you it's house 9, it's pushing you to step outside your comfort zone. So I feel that Uranus's square with Venus, your ruler, is more encouragement not to just stick with what feels really safe. Now, this could be around your work, it could be around relationships, and some kind of alterations going to come in, particularly as Mars also forges a fantastic link with the Sun in the last week of this month, and this could bring some really good financial news for you. So I feel you're being asked to just keep pushing into the unknown a little bit, even if it's really scary. But the solar return says to me that the truth of certain situations are going to be revealed throughout 2023, even if you would prefer to stick. You know, we all like a degree of stability and routine, but if it's become as stale as an old pair of slippers, this really is the opportunity this month to rethink things in a very dynamic way and truly go for it. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Taurus, wishing you all the best for year 2023.